Oh no, I dropped it. It'll stay there. That's alright. Hi all. Thanks so much for joining me today. As a creator with a teeny tiny channel, it means a lot when somebody clicks on the view button. So thank you again. That said, the teeny tiny channel is growing. With all the new followers, I thought it might be nice to do a Meet the Maker type thing. I'll talk a little bit about my background, some of the things that happen around here, and show a few examples of things. So let's get started. First things first. Even though my given name is Crystal, all of my social media is under Skuldsbane except Facebook. But since I haven't really used Facebook since somewhere around 2020, it really wasn't worth the time to update that. A couple of days ago, I deleted the app formerly known as Twitter too, since it really hasn't been functional for a while. I think we've all felt that one. But places like Twitch, Patreon, Ko-Fi, Discord, Etsy, and various video gaming platforms, it's always Skuldsbane. A few of these places I've been super inactive for the last year and a bit due to life basically blowing up in my face. But we'll get into that later. But rest assured that there are plans to get my butt in gear. One of the things that you may notice as you watch is a general attitude that's not really standard for someone who lives in the US. Or maybe it's normal where you are. I don't know. I'm not here to judge. My other half told me that it seemed pretty normal for the people back home when we went to visit pre-pandemic. See, I grew up in Colorado, not the mountain part, even though we spent many, many weekends up there in tents with campfires and hot dogs and marshmallows and the whole thing. I graduated high school somewhere about halfway in between Denver and Nebraska. There were 13 people in my class, not just the graduating class, the entire class. And the entire class graduated. 13 people was a huge class for the school district. It was almost double the normal class size. There was a whole lot of cows, a whole lot of wheat, a whole lot of wind, and a whole lot of learning how to live with and accept yourself. It really makes for a different mindset than people who lived in town, worried more about what the neighbors had to say, or from people who lived in cities and have very urban outlooks. And to me, it's actually a lot of fun and very interesting to sit and talk with people who grew up in those different environments like that, just to compare things. And again, no judgment. From there, I moved around for a few years. There were a few kids, there was a divorce, a lot of life lessons. About 15-ish years ago, I ended up landing in Florida. I've been in the general Orlando area for most of that. I've learned to dislike Disney for various reasons. Sorry if you're a fan, but it's very much not for me. And I settled down with the person that we all refer to as the man thing. We'll eventually get married. Maybe. But not today. And that's okay. He's an amazing and supportive person who not only embraces the crafting explosions, as you can see behind me, this is mostly crafting stuff on this side. This is roleplay, D&D type stuff right here. But I have a giant shelving unit that's mostly crafting right behind me. And he's also been learning how to do some of them too. One of the things he's been focused on is sewing. We both have a background in historical reenactment. He still participates sometimes, but I haven't been, so he's been making most of his own outfits. This hanging on the chair behind me is a partially finished shirt for him. I'm actually doing that one because it's a pattern we had not tested yet. And it's finished except for the buttons, buttonholes, and sleeve cuffs. Brain, 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 when will you come back from the war? Oofta. Anyway, my teaching him some of the techniques that Grandma taught me as a child was actually the inspiration for starting the channel. There are a lot of places where you see a lot of people working out outfits, but not really going into the details of how something is done, how to put a particular seam together, or instructions for, like I'm planning on doing French seams because there will be a French seam on the sleeve of the mouse shirt and the button plackets and how to do the cuffs and things of that nature. But that was the inspiration for starting the channel, was teaching him. I started making doll clothes about 35 years ago, worked my way up, and even made the dresses for both junior and senior prom. For those of you in the US, you know that prom is a big deal. For those of you outside the US, prom is a big deal. There will be more instructional videos, as I said, that lean more towards clothing than quilting coming up, but there will also be the quilting blocks and techniques. Now, quilting itself is something I didn't really get into until I was in my 20s, and it's been very much an off and on craft. Don't get me wrong, I love it. I do. Being able to pull scraps and pre-cuts out and ending up with something beautiful and warm is just satisfying. It just really doesn't do much good when we have 2 weeks of winter, especially when those 2 weeks of winter are split up into there's a couple of days here and a few more over there, and maybe one next week, and two after that, you know. So instead of doing full quilt tops, I've been leaning towards things like mug rugs. I do have a couple examples like this one. This is part of a set that's actually up on my Etsy right now. The past couple of days, I've been working on Halloween themed ones. They'll be going up in the Etsy shop as soon as they're finished. I've got a couple of examples here. They're super simple, and I honestly meant to film an instructional video on them, but I got caught up in just churning them out and completely forgot to turn on the camera. Womp womp. Womp womp, sad trumpet. But I have more pre-cuts, and I will be doing a video when I work on those. But this is basically what they will turn out to be, right? I also knit. I crochet. I do cross stitch and embroidery. Um, I spin yarn. There's one of my drop spindles. His name is Cecil. I also have a wheel for spinning yarn. And if I ever dig my loom out from the pile of stuff that it's buried in, because a few years ago we went from a 3-bedroom apartment to an 800 square foot 1-bedroom apartment, and we've had to squeeze a lot of things, and that's where the shelving unit came in, by the way. But I may string that up again too. I don't know. If anybody's interested in seeing any of that, please let me know. Leave a comment. I'll respond. I try to respond to all comments, and I'll plan out a little bit of that too, instead of just focusing on the sewing. Another beloved pastime of mine is sending and receiving postcards. I have got an entire chunkin' stack. These are the ones that are ready to send out. Some of them are blank, like so, and they will be handcrafted as they just pull from the top of the pile. Some of them are commercial. Hilda, I love Hilda. Some of them are, there's one from St. Augustine, which is not too far off. Uh, there are a few that have like maps on them. I have some Where's Waldo ones. It really depends. It's just kind of a toss up what you'll get. Um, and again, it's just based on where things are in the stack. And as the stack shrinks, I just get more and add to it. You know? Um, but the commercial ones, I just write a note on them, send them off. The blank ones, as I said, I do paper crafting and I will decorate them and then write a note and send them off. But if you're also a person who likes to receive mail that's not either a bill or a credit card offer, take a look at my Patreon. Um, it's going to be linked down below. There are a couple of different Patreon levels where you will be receiving postcards. And I do that for my friends and family members, and we'll also be doing that for Patreon. Like I said earlier, things on there have been really sparse right along with the rest of social media. Now, I'm not going to drown you in a sob story. Everybody's heard them. Nobody needs another one. But here's a very brief overview of what's been going on to keep me from being to update as much as I would like. Alright. I broke my ankle twice last summer. Same ankle, same type of rake, same spot. Two surgeries to fix it. The second surgery happened because when I broke it the second time, I managed to break one of the screws and bend two of the other ones. And I bent one of the titanium rods that was holding the whole thing together from the first surgery. Uh, it was a whole thing. I started that. The first break was in May, and the second break was in August. The company that I was working for at the time announced they were downsizing and gave me my notice 3 days, literally 3 days before the second surgery. So from the time the drugs wore off until basically the end of the year, my time was spent in between recovering and job hunting. I did get a job, then I got COVID during training. Third day of training is when I tested positive. I came back the last day of training. So, because of just the way things worked out, the job has been super stressful for me. And between this whole big comedy of health related errors and the fact that I have a couple of genetic conditions that are really exhausting anyway, things just got to be way too much to handle, especially with that added stress. Um, I blacked out while on the clock in the middle of May and have been on medical leave ever since. Life has been a series of in between 1 and 5 medical appointments per week since then, as we try to figure out what's going on and why I'm just so exhausted and just can't seem to get it together. Along with 100 other things, because they're still taking care of a household and everything else that goes along with it. It's life. It happens. And maybe one day we'll figure it out. Just not today. What we do know right now is that it's not a heart condition, which is amazing. It was a major concern. We know that iron infusions do help, which is a step in the right direction. We know I'm starting to get enough energy back to focus on creating and posting again, which is why there have been videos recently. And we also know that it's going to be difficult, if not impossible, for me to go back to my job. I have been looking for an alternative job, as well as getting it together and posting, or trying to post at least one YouTube video a week. But, this is where you all come in. If you've made it this far, thank you from the bottom of my little bitty heart. If you want to continue to help, please help this teeny tiny channel grow. Like the video, subscribe, recommend the channel to people who might be interested. With your help, it can grow enough to provide just a little pocket money, and that would be absolutely phenomenal. That's my goal right now, is just to be able to make a little bit on the side to help with all the medical bills that have started coming in. Um, yeah, I'm sure at least some of you can understand. But if you would, again, subscribe, watch the videos. They are getting better. I'm learning a lot more about the editing and especially the sound. It's been a problem. But thank you one more time. And I'll see you next time.